When talking to people about their retirement and how much they'll need to live their retirement lifestyle, a lot of times they'll name off the basics like mortgage, food, gas, utility. Then they start thinking about the fun things like travel, their hobbies, activities with their kids and their grandkids. However, there's 5 expenses that people typically miss when planning for their retirement. And that's what we're going to talk about today, those 5 expenses, and how we want to make sure that you factor these in ahead of time so they're not cutting from the fun things that you had planned when you are living those retirement years.
Welcome to the Your Life, Your Money podcast with Scott Searens, teaching you how to thrive in life, wealth, and retirement.
Welcome to another episode of The Retirement Show, all about your life, your money, and your taxes. As you know, I'm not a big fan of taxes, so we want you to pay what you only legally have to, but we don't want you to give the IRS a tip. I'm your host, Scott Searens, and my goal is to help you thrive in life, wealth, and retirement. Now, today I feel like we've got a great show for you. We're going to talk about retirement expenses, specifically expenses that typically get missed. Now, before we dive into that, a couple things to go over with you. If you haven't yet, get your copy of our free guide to unlocking hidden tax opportunities, and then you can go to lifemoneyshow.com/taxes to get it. Again, it's a free guide to unlocking hidden tax savings opportunities. It's at lifemoneyshow.com/taxes. What it is, it's a guide of strategies to help reduce your overall taxes. It's going to provide you actionable advice and a checklist that you can utilize. And most importantly, what it means is that it's going to help you understand how to reduce what you pay to the IRS and keep more of your hard-earned income, keep more of your hard-earned retirement savings in your pocket, again, versus giving it to the IRS in taxes. You can go to lifemoneyshow.com/taxes. So I thought we'd start off today's show, as you heard in the title there, we're going to talk about expenses that typically get missed in retirement. So I thought I'd start off today's show with a really good article in regards to healthcare expenses. So this is a CNBC article. I'm going to link to it in the show notes. So you can go to lifemoneyshow.com and click on the show notes. And the title of the article here is Medicare Expenses in Retirement Could Top $383,000 for a couple with high drug costs, which a study found. So I'm not going to go through the full article, but there's a few paragraphs here that I wanted to pull out with some statistics. Not to scare you, but just to say be prepared. Health costs can get expensive in retirement. So here we go. And in the article itself, it's talking about Medicare supplements versus Medicare Advantage, how much you could potentially spend over retirement. Again, these are estimates, so it's not necessarily that these are the specific costs, as everybody's situation is unique and different. But here's a part of the article. It says a 65-year-old man enrolled in Medigap Plan G with average monthly premiums. They said they used $204 per month for their calculation. Would need to have saved $96,000 to have a 50% chance of having enough money to cover the premiums and median prescription drug expenditures, the analysis found. A woman of the same age with the same coverage choices would need to have $116,000 saved for the same 50% chance of having enough money. The higher amount is due to women generally living longer than men. For a 75% chance, the same man and woman would need to have saved $137,000 for the man, $159,000 for the woman, and then a 90% chance those amounts would be $166,000 for the man, $197,000 for the woman. And it says, representing an extreme case, a couple with high prescription drug expenses would need to have saved $383,000 to have a 90% chance of having enough money to cover their health care costs. Now, what this also means, like if you were just to go into retirement not having Social Security, just utilizing your savings to pay for these costs, that's what they're trying to explain, is what you're going to pay throughout your retirement lifetime when it comes to healthcare costs. And so as you can see here, it is quite a pretty penny when it comes to these items. So I just wanted you, I'm going to link to the article, you can read it. You can understand better what they mean when they talk about 50%, 75%, 90% chance. But basically what it's saying is how much you just have to have saved up to pay for the Medigap cost, to pay for the prescription drug cost, again, according to their studies and their analysis here. And the point I'm trying to get across is $383,000 for a couple throughout their retirement is a pretty healthy amount that you need to have saved. Otherwise, this can start eating into your other retirement things that you had planned, right? Maybe that was travel. Maybe it was helping your kids. Maybe it was helping a charity. So, one, keep up with your health, because if you keep up with your health, it's going to help lower these costs. But two, be prepared, because there will be healthcare bills in retirement. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk about today. Now I'm going to give you some just basic analogies, but hopefully it starts to get the mind turning. So think about this. Think about a housing project. Maybe you've done a housing project and you forgot to put something in your estimate. Maybe you did a project and you forgot to get the permit, and you forgot to put the permit in the estimate for your project. And so as you're going along and you thought the project was going to cost $5,000, next thing you know, it costed $6,000. Maybe you've renovated the kitchen and you got done and you're like, oh, I thought about the cabinets, I thought about the flooring, I thought about the lights, I thought about the countertops, I thought about everything except for I forgot about the doors for the drawers or the handles for the doors and the drawers. And next thing you know, how much ever those cost a piece, it all starts to add up. Maybe you've renovated your bathroom. You got done, you had the shower done, you had the bathtub done, you had the tile on the walls, the cabinets on the floor, the new countertop, the new sink, the new faucets, and then you look around and you realize you've got nowhere to hang your towels and your toilet paper. And then now you've got extra expenses, right? And so it happens in life. It happens that when we're doing or putting together our projects, that we miss things. We forget about expenses that we might have while we're doing these projects. Now, the examples that I brought up, these might seem minor, but sometimes they can really add up. And here's the thing. Either A, you have the money to do it, right? So you have the money to put the handles on the doors and drawers. You have the money to get the towel bar and the toilet paper holder. And I get it, these are so minor, right? So you're like, yeah, I've got those few bucks. That's not a big problem. That's not a big deal. So then it's okay. Now, maybe you're maxing that project out already. You're already over budget without these items, right? And then you forgot that permit. So then you've got and I have no idea how much a permit costs, but let's just make an extreme, right? Let's say on the project, it's going to cost a couple $1,000s, and you were already at budget to begin with on your project. Now, because you're a couple $1,000s over because you forgot the expense of the permit, you need to go backwards. You need to go back to your project and say, where am I going to cut? Where am I going to make changes? And you might have to reduce another part of the project and make changes on something that you weren't planning on making changes for. Well, why do I bring all of this up? Preparing for retirement can be very similar. You think that you have everything in the plan. You think you've got everything into your project estimate. But here's what I find. I find that many people going into retirement, considering retirement, looking at retirement, many people overlook some of the most crucial expenses. And I know in my examples here of home renovation projects, I was just talking about some one-time expenses. But for these retirement expenses, these are expenses that can impact you not only just one time, but year after year after year. Now, from what we talked about earlier, A, maybe you have the money, so it's okay. It's not a big deal if you miss out on some of these expenses. Or B, maybe you're going into retirement and you're trying to pull everything really close. You've saved up $1 million or you saved up $2 million and you're trying to really, pull it really close for the lifestyle expenses that you have and the travel expenses that you have. And if you forget some of these other crucial expenses, well, then you might have to go back and cut on some of the other items that you were hoping to do. Maybe you have to cut on the vacation costs. Maybe you have to cut on some travel cost or some lifestyle expenses or, the dinners that you like to go out and enjoy. So here's the deal. We're going to talk about these 5 expenses today, these 5 expenses that are typically missed in retirement. And here's the thing. Have a plan for them. Have a plan for them so you don't have to worry about them in your future. And I understand some of these you'll say, well, but wait a second, how can I plan for it? Well, maybe put a contingency amount for it. Kind of like having an emergency fund. Once you have it, then it seems like you don't have emergencies anymore because you've got the fund, you've got extra savings. So once you have it, then it doesn't feel like you have emergencies anymore. When you don't have it, everything feels like an emergency. So it's kind of like having an emergency fund when you plan for these crucial expenses, when you put a budget aside for them. And yes, I'm not a big fan of the word budget, but when you put an amount aside for them, then you no longer have to worry about them like they're emergencies. So, all right, here we go. We're going to get into the 5 expenses typically missed in retirement. Now, I find when meeting with new people, most people are just worried about living their lifestyle. If I ask them how much they need, they're going to give me some rough, but I'm going to say kind of poor estimate of what it's going to cost them for food and their mortgage and utilities and gas and phone, cable, internet. But here are, because they're thinking about all of the great fun things in retirement, and that's what we want everybody to think about. You've worked hard for your retirement savings, so we want you to spend and enjoy your money too. But we don't want you to forget these crucial expenses, because if we forget these crucial expenses, well, then they're going to cut into all those fun and enjoyable things that you want to do. So here's what I find that most people are forgetting. All right, number 1, and at no surprise, is it lines up with the article that I was talking about earlier. One of the expenses that people typically miss or forget about in retirement is medical expenses. And you might be thinking, how in the heck could they forget about that? Well, I tell you, a lot of times people are just adding up what they're going to have for Social Security, what they can potentially take out of their portfolio, and they go, well, my lifestyle expenses, some of those examples I gave you earlier, add up to about the same thing. I think I'll be okay. However, as the article stated, Medicare expenses could top $383,000 for a retired couple with high drug cost. Have you thought about that? Have you figured it in? Have you put in to your plan, to your project, your retirement project estimate? Have you put in how much it's going to cost you each and every month for base Medicare? Have you thought about Medicare supplements versus Medicare Advantage? And whichever one you've thought about, have you thought about how much that's going to cost you each and every month? How about a prescription drug plan? And then not only just how much these plans are going to cost you, but then on top of that, what is it going to potentially cost you for doctors' co-pays and potential medical bills? And then if you are on prescriptions, how much would those cost you as well? I know, Christy here in our office, she's focused on helping people with their Medicare plans. One of the things that she's able to do is type in all of their different prescriptions, and it's going to give them a rough estimate, not only of how much their prescription drug plan is going to cost each and every month, but how much their actual prescriptions after that drug plan would potentially cost them as well. How about doctor copays? Maybe I'd already mentioned that. So while it seems so obvious, medical expenses is one of the crucial things that you cannot leave out of your retirement project estimate. And so often it gets forget. Now, when planning, we have systems that we utilize that automatically calculate in base Medicare. And then we start to put some estimated numbers to Medicare supplements, to prescription drugs, prescription drug plans. That way it's an item that's not forgotten when we help our clients plan. So you want to make sure that you're putting dollars towards it as you're doing your overall plan. Now, I've just started by talking about medical, But how about dental? How about hearing? Unfortunately, a lot of people, as they go into retirement, they might need hearing aids. So do you have a dental vision hearing plan? And then what will that dental vision hearing plan cost you in premiums? And then what will it cover and what won't it cover? Maybe you'll also have some copays there. What if you need hearing aids? Hearing aids can get really expensive. Will your hearing plan cover that, or will you have to cover that on your own? Now, I'm not just trying to, put fear in you. You can actually go out. I mean, this is what we do for our clients each and every day, right? When we're helping them put together their income plans, you can go out. There's data out there, or we actually have numbers on some of the base costs. We know, to a rough amount what these items will cost you. So I don't want to put a bunch of fear in there like, oh man, this is going to be thousands of dollars a month because he gave us this estimated $383,000 for this couple from this article. Again, everybody's life is unique and different, but you want to put something towards it. Now, this one's typically, I won't say missed from a medical expense, but what it is it's typically just ignored, and that's long-term care. And have you thought about what if you were to need long-term care? Home care, maybe you're looking at $50,000 to $60,000 a year or more. Assisted living could be around the same. And then if you're needed nursing home type costs, you could be looking at $90,000 to $100,000 a year or more. Just like you get a Medicare supplement plan or a Medicare prescription drug plan to help cover expenses. Have you thought about getting long-term care insurance to help offset the cost of long-term care? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Either way, these are expenses that we just have to think about, we have to consider, and we have to put as part of our retirement project estimate. Okay, here we go. Moving on. Number 2. That was probably the longest one. Number 4, number 5, we'll definitely have some thoughts to it as well. This next couple here are just ones that I've witnessed working with folks that are typically age 55 plus and are transitioning into retirement or are in retirement. Things that they typically miss out on are hard to estimate, but just be prepared for it, that it could happen in your future. So number 2, unexpected travel. Maybe you have a son or a daughter or a grandchild that decided to have a destination wedding in Mexico instead of getting married at the local church. As we age, it's unfortunately inevitable that we will pass away. And maybe some of your friends will begin to pass. If they do, did they live local? Maybe they lived in a different state. Do you need to travel to that funeral? And maybe you hadn't anticipated that. Sometimes there's prolonged life events that can just become a personal expense as well. Maybe you have an aging mother or father who needs your help. Maybe they live in state, but it takes an hour or 2 hours to get there to them, where you're going to have costs such as gas, costs such as time, maybe hotels, maybe food, helping to, take care of them. Maybe they live out of state, then you've got to fly to get them. Again, maybe costs, maybe rentals, hotels, foods. So one of the costs that, just to kind of think about is throughout your retirement, you might have some unexpected travel. Number 3, we were just talking about parents that might need assistance, but what about children that also might need assistance? Maybe you have children, even if they've graduated college, depending on where the economic situation is, they might have a tough time getting started in the real world. They might need help with rent. They might need help with food. They might need help with, paying their cell phone bill. Maybe they need help getting a car. And if they need help getting a car, I'm going to guess that they might need help getting car insurance. I don't yet have kids. I hope that I'm blessed to have children someday. So I can't necessarily fully relate to what it must be like if your child is asking you for help. I can't fully relate to that. So all I can do is maybe give advice like this. Is if you think about when we're flying on an airplane, before we take off, as they go through the instructions. They talk about it if something happens on that airplane, to make sure that you put on your oxygen mask first before you go and put it on your child. Why is that? Well, you need your oxygen so you can, stay healthy, so you can survive, to then help take care of that child. But if you're not putting on your oxygen mask and you're taking care of them first, well, you might not even finish with that task, and then unfortunately you haven't survived. I mean, I know that's some extremes, but it is explaining why we go through, why on an airplane they talk about, again, doing it for you first before you take care of that child. And all I can say is think about that when it comes to your retirement. If you have, or if you are taking care of all of the expenses for your child, and you're depleting your retirement, you could put yourself in a really, really bad situation where then you're not able to survive retirement. So just think about that. Again, I'm not in that situation where a child's asking me for help. I'm not in that situation where they might be asking me to help pay for their car or their expenses or need, rent. So how then, I guess, do you figure out a way to also teach them? How do you help them learn? How do you help them learn to get into a situation where you're at, where you've saved up that $1 million or $2 million or more? So how do you help them get from where they're at to where you're at? Just think about that. But I guess back to the overall gist of today's show is, expenses that are typically missed in retirement. And that is something that you might want to consider, something that you might want to think about, is that your kids might need help. Do you need to factor some of that in when it comes to your overall retirement? Okay, number 4, maintenance, repair, and replacement. All right, let's see. I've been in my house now for 14 years. In that 14 years, I've had to replace the dishwasher, the furnace, the AC, the fence, windows, the hot water heater. Plus, I've needed to fix the roof, as well as do much, much more in the house. And I'm betting, right? You're sitting there going, oh yeah, I've had to do all of those things myself, plus many, many more. Now, hopefully your retirement lasts for 20, 30 years or longer. That was what I've had to do in 14 years. So think about what you might have to do in 30 years. Are you going to need a new furnace? Are you going to need a new hot water heater? Are you going to need a new dishwasher? Are you going to need a new fridge? Are you going to need a new stove? What about all of these items? It's a blessing to be able to own our homes, own that physical asset, but there's going to be maintenance and upkeep with it. Have you thought about that? Have you put dollar amounts aside in your head when it comes to these items? Are you factoring, something like this in to your overall retirement plan? Another thing is, when I ask people, hey, roughly, how much were you going to need to live your lifestyle when it comes to retirement? A lot of people always go, well, we spend about this much each and every month in gas. But you know what they forget? They forget about their car. They forget about that their car might not last 30 years, and at some point in time, they're going to need to buy a new car or a used car, but they might need another car. The other thing is our cars will potentially at some point in time break down, need maintenance, need that oil change. Have you factored all of those in to your retirement plan, or I've been calling it today your retirement project estimate? Have you factored all those in as well? All right. Our 5th and final item, I kind of combined 2 of them here together because, I don't know, they say to do things in odd numbers, so I'm going with 5, but it's got a part A and part B. So number 5, when talking with people, one of the most crucial expenses that they forget, part A here, and here's what people say all the time. Well, it appears that I'll have, and everybody's situation is unique and different, right? But just giving an example here. They'll say, it appears that I'll have X amount of dollars coming in. In our example, it appears that I'll have $9,000 a month coming in. What did they do? They added up their Social Security. They said, I'll have $3,000 in Social Security. My spouse will have $2,500, so that's $5,500. It appears that I can take about $3,500 from my portfolio. So, hey, we're at $9,000 a month coming in. I think we're going to be okay because it only takes, $8,500 a month to live, and then I have to break the bad news. about what they forgot. And can you guess what they forgot? What the crucial expense is that they forgot? They forgot about taxes. And depending on where that $3,500 a month is coming in from their portfolio, they could have a big tax bill, they could have a medium-sized tax bill, they could have a small tax bill, and this $9,000 a month could easily go down to $8,000 a month, could go down to $7,500 a month. It all depends, because it depends on where they save their money at. Did they save it in a taxable account, a tax-deferred account, a Roth account, that tax-free account? So a crucial expense that people miss. Now, when we're, again, putting together the retirement income plans for our clients, we have systems that are calculating the estimated taxes that they'll pay each and every year based on current tax rates. The other thing, so have you thought about this? Have you understood what you're going to actually have after the crucial expense of taxes? And then the other thing to think about is, what if Congress raises taxes? Do you have enough to then continue to take more out to support your lifestyle needs, or are you prepared to take a cut if that happens? That goes back to what we were talking about earlier, unlocking potential hidden opportunities, right, to save on your taxes, because the more you can do today to put a plan in place to reduce your taxes, the more you'll potentially have over your lifetime to be able to spend. So as part A, taxes. Part B, another hidden expense of our fifth one here, is inflation. The cost of goods and services going up over time. I mean, when I was in high school, I think gas was under $1. Now, we're looking at 3 to 4. At points of time last year, gas was over $5 a gallon. What about milk? What about eggs? What about meat? What about your utilities like gas and electric for your house? All of these will continue to go up over time. And that's like a hidden expense, because why I call it a hidden expense is you might think, well, I've already got food, gas, utilities all covered in my retirement project estimate, but have you also factored in that they could go up by 3%? 4%, 2%, 1%. So last year we were seeing 9%. I don't see that as a long-term thing. Again, there's averages, and over a long period of time, maybe we're going to average 2, 3, 4% when it comes to inflation. But the reason why it's a hidden expense is because while you might have factored for one thing today, those costs will go up next year. They're going to go up the year after and the year after that. All right, there we go. The 5 crucial expenses that typically get missed by people when they're putting together their retirement project estimate. These are expenses that we see missed when people come in and sit down to talk with us. And then as we go through our process and helping them put together a retirement income plan, these are items that we're bringing up. We're already taking into account. We have systems that calculate them in, because we don't want them to be missed. We want you to enjoy retirement versus feeling like things are an emergency, or versus feeling like you have to take a cut later on because you didn't plan for these in advance. Our last one there was taxes. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, if you haven't yet, get your copy of our free guide to unlocking hidden tax savings opportunities. You can go to lifemoneyshow.com/taxes. Again, lifemoneyshow.com/taxes to get that guide of strategies to help you reduce your long-term tax burden. It's going to provide you actionable advice along with a checklist to utilize. But most importantly, what it means is it's going to help you understand how to reduce what you pay to the IRS, keep more of that hard-earned income, more of your hard-earned retirement savings with you and in your pocket. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If so, subscribe on your favorite podcast player as we're continuing to come out with new shows each and every week. I look forward to our next conversation to continue to help you enjoy life today and be financially confident about your tomorrow.
Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM and Searns Financial Group, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Sierens Financial Management, Inc. Sierens Financial Group, Inc. is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management, LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Sierens Financial Management, Inc. are not subject to investment advisor requirements. AEWM and Sierens Financial Group, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as a sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Sierens Financial Group, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Sierens Financial Group, Inc. Bond obligations are subject to the financial strength of the bond issuer and its ability to pay. Before investing, consult your financial advisor to understand the risk involved with purchasing bonds.